In this video, I will be showing you all the exact strategy Mr. Beast used to explode his channel growth to new heights, and exactly how you can use this to your advantage. So, how is Mr. Beast dominating YouTube but everyone else seems to be struggling? How is it that Mr. Beast continues to grow his channel exponentially, despite the fact that there are other YouTubers out there who were much larger than he was? Well, it's actually pretty easy if you know how the YouTube algorithm works. You see, most people think that YouTube is a really hard and difficult platform to grow on. This couldn't be the opposite. I'm a YouTuber, well, right now with around 100 subscribers. And although the number is quite small, the first thing you need to realize is that subscriber counts don't matter anymore. And this is great because this means any creator of any size, if they produce content that is great, it will get seen. Sometimes you just have to wait. But what is it that Mr. Beast did right? Not just once, but time and time again, so that his channel keeps on succeeding and going viral? Well, there are two main factors that I know are 100% the reason for Mr. Beast's success, despite his handsome smile. And I'm going to explain in great detail just exactly how you can use these and implement them in your videos so that you can grow your channel to new heights. The first thing that Mr. Beast does correctly, and before I'm about to say what I say here, this is something that 90% of YouTubers always forget or just don't understand. And this is thumbnail composition. If you're new to the platform that is YouTube and don't understand what thumbnail composition is, then your channel is not going to succeed, even if your content is good. You see, the thumbnail is what potential viewer first sees before they click in your video. So, if a video has a terrible thumbnail, then the viewer is not going to click. However, if the thumbnail is good, then the viewer is going to click. But not everyone understands what makes a thumbnail a good thumbnail, especially Mr. Beast's thumbnail. Let's take a look at one of Mr. Beast's most popular videos, going through the same drive-through 1,000 times. Now, this video is absolutely brilliant. Let's take a look at the thumbnail first. What most people don't realize is that this thumbnail has perfect composition, and I'm going to explain why. The way how thumbnails work is that in order for a thumbnail to be good, there needs to be what I like to call the quick glance. This means that with a quick glance of 1 to 2 seconds, you instantly get what the video is about. And that's what this thumbnail has. Now, if we look at the thumbnail, this is what I like to call a 3-piece thumbnail composition, meaning that there are 3 pieces of the thumbnail that the viewer must take in, all within one single glance. When a viewer first looks at the thumbnail, they look at the first point of interest, which is Mr. Beast's face and the food. This is great because it is on the left-hand side of the screen. It has its own space. Then they look at point 2, which is the lady in the back, handing Mr. Beast the food. And they look at this second because people's eyes naturally look from left to right. Then they look at point 3. Now point 3 is great because this is a number which shows the amount of times he has gone through the drive-thru. Now, not only is this thumbnail composition great, it also contains an information gap, and this is the killer. But what is an information gap? This basically means that the thumbnail is showing something where if the viewer wants to know more about it, they must click on the video. In Mr. Beast's case, we have huge information gaps, simply created by having the number 801 placed in the corner of the screen. This number shows us that he is going through the drive-thru for the 801st time, which leaves the viewer asking many questions. What about the first time? What about the second time? What about the last time? How full does this car get? Why is the woman smiling on time 801? This is great because since there are multiple questions, it gives the viewer much more than one reason to click. And if you get an abnormally high number of people to click on a video, well then, what happens is that your video will start to improve the click-through rate. And for those of you who don't know what a click-through rate is, it's fairly simple. It basically means if your click-through rate is high, at around 20%, your video will do well. And if your click-through rate is low, like 5%, people aren't clicking your video, and your video will do worse. For example, if you had 5 clicks and 100 impressions, then your CTR would be 5%. Ideally, you want 100 people to see your video, and for those 100 people to click it. Ideally, when looking at the sidebar of YouTube, you want your click-through rate to be higher than the average. That way, your views will be higher than normal, and thus, your video will go viral. So, When you have such an amazing thumbnail composition, it's nearly impossible for the viewer not to click. And what happens when you have nearly everyone clicking a video? It goes viral. Now, the thumbnail part of the viral video is only half of the equation. What happens if you have an amazing thumbnail, but everybody stops watching? Well then, what happens is your video just doesn't get recommended as much. The second part to ensuring a viral video is audience retention. For example, let's say you just published a video that's 10 minutes long. If people watch your video for an average of 5 minutes, your audience retention on that video is 50%. In fact, when YouTube rolled out a change to their algorithm a few years ago, they said, "We've started adjusting the ranking of videos in YouTube search to reward engaging videos that keep viewers watching." And YouTube recently confirmed that audience retention remains a big part of their algorithm. And videos with consistently high audience retention and watch time have the potential to show up more frequently in search and suggested locations on YouTube. So it's clear that videos with high audience retention rank higher in YouTube search and get promoted in other places on the platform, like the YouTube homepage. What type of audience retention is needed for a viral video? If I'm being honest, I've had a few viral videos in my time, and I would say, if you want real viral videos, then you ideally want to shoot for above 60%. Ideally, in most cases, you would want 70%. And yes, getting nearly everyone to watch 70% of your video sounds hard. However, I can promise you, there are some easy strategies you can use to get this audience retention up there. One easy way that you can do this, and one easy way that Mr. Beast does this, is through telling a story. All stories have a beginning, middle, and end. The great thing about telling a story is that in order for the viewer to complete the story and become satisfied, then they must finish watching the video. And that's why most viral videos tell a story. If we look at the same Mr. Beast video, you can see that the video clearly follows a story. You have the beginning, where he's just starting to order food through the drive-thru, the middle part, where he's actually doing stuff with all the food he has bought, and of course, the ending part, which is what everyone has come for. So, if you want to have a good audience retention like Mr. Beast, then you have to make sure that whatever you are doing has a story to it. You can't just have a video on YouTube and expect people to watch it to the end, unless there is something that they absolutely need to see. You need to give them incremental pieces of the pie. In Mr. Beast's case, if you know how brains work and how dopamine is triggered, I'm pretty sure each time the car went around the drive-thru, the viewer got a little more interested in the video, and it promoted them to stick around to the end. Not only because the video is great, but because they have already watched 5 minutes of it at this point, so they must need to see how it ends. If you're interested in growing your channel and dominating YouTube, then subscribe to this channel for more content like this.